Another episode, Why Wells Fail, with Lloyd Brown. Lloyd, what's going on?
Man, it's one day more in fall, and I was reading about gas futures, and they're down a little bit for natural gas. Got a lot of it in storage, but and oil's down. The price of oil's down, and so what we do and how we help make more out of less is that much more important today.
Yeah, it's more and more. It's becoming more important. I was listening to some guys talk, and those natural gas generators that they use to generate electricity, in remote locations for these data centers. That demand is all sucked up. They can't make those generators fast enough, and so that's putting a lot of pressure on other sources of electricity. So back to your point, how we got to be as efficient as possible with the existing resources that we have available, and that's where we find completions comes in.
Absolutely.
So today we're talking about the chemical reaction you can't see, but you should fear. It's like most well failures don't start with something you can see. They begin at the molecular level. And so why is this important, Lloyd?
Most of the time, there we go. Chemical reactions that are happening thousands of feet below the surface of the earth, a mile or deeper. And when you start thinking about what you can see, we're always usually in our industry, the problems show up as the well's being produced. And you start seeing things like emulsions, corrosion, scale, different things that happen at the surface, and we don't have the ability so much to see what's happening downhole. And what's unique about our refined process, the Pathfinder process, is we have the ability to predict and ultimately understand and see what the disruption that's happening from the process of fracking wells. And what a lot of people that aren't in the industry don't understand is that as we go through and a well is being fracked, it's done in zones or called stages. And as each stage along a 1, 2, or 3 mile length of wellbore called the lateral, the horizontal part of horizontal fracking, that we've got something set behind pipe and it's under pressure. And most of the reservoirs that we're producing oil and gas from are between 120 and some are a couple of hundred degrees. Some are even north of that. And we don't think about what happens when all that gets set. And when you have, are you a cook?
Yeah, I love to cook.
Growing up, pressure cooking was a big deal. And a lot of it is because we didn't have the kind of quality beef that we have today. And so you used a pressure cooker to imbibe spices and break down the tissue of the meat. Well, that's basically what we're doing when we frack a well. We're putting it under a pressure cooker. The pressure that we frack a well can be anywhere between 4,000 pounds, sometimes 14,000 foot-pounds of pressure that are being pumped into this rock to break it up, to crack it up. And then we're setting what's called a plug, and we're leaving that frac fluid that we just used to crack all that rock up set behind a plug for anywhere between, call it 25 or 40 days. And so you've got all these thermodynamic laws working against you that are really summed up in the law of equilibrium, which means that as a element becomes disrupted, it wants to go back to its most normal and elemental state. And so that's what you can't see. And for years, we couldn't see it. We saw it, we thought about it, We talked about it, but we really didn't understand the impacts of it. And that's what we now understand the impacts. And so much so that we've discovered that there's really 5 different mechanisms of disruption or long-term impacts or failures that are going to hit the well that you'll never see, but they're happening.
And so those 5 things, in my head, I'm going, all right, what are the 5 things? I should know some of these, but let's review those.
Well, one of them is the clays that are in there. They swell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your pond. When it dries up, you see all of it crack open. But when you get the water to it, it closes back off and it holds water. Well, we don't want our producing wells to become disposal wells. We want that water to come back out that we put in there. But if that water hydrates the clays like we see in a pond and it seals it off, well, that's the same thing. The water can't move. And if the water can't move, the oil can't move. And so that's one of the major, probably the most common disruption that happens within the fracking of the well, and something that's been addressed or attempted to be addressed for a long time. The second one is a type of clay that is, you mobilize it, it comes off, and you see when rocks crumble, the same thing can happen down there. And we don't want that stuff to crumble because it ends up, again, becoming kind of a filtrate, like a swimming pool filter. I don't know if anybody's ever seen one, but a lot of sand-based swimming pool filters or big industrial filters have big rocks on the bottom. And as they get up, they have smaller and smaller and smaller. And in a pool, we have to backwash it because that smaller area, we get all those real small fines in there. We have to pull them out and clear them out. Well, there's no way to clear them out inside of a well. They come out and they're you see these ugly emulsions and different things that happen in the well that are indicators that we've got disruption and that we're going to have significant production problems over the life of the well. So those are 2. Another one is the transformation of the geology from one type of mineral to another. We see this, and this is one of the discoveries in our patent, is that we see this mineralogical transformation of the geology that you never see. You'll never see it unless you have the ability to study it as we do at the surface under laboratory testing conditions. So those are 3 of the really big mechanisms that we're looking at that you won't see. There'll be it could be indicators of that as the wells come on, but you really don't see it. Why those wells are shut in before they get drilled out and brought into production.
You brought the example of the granite countertop, and I'm just thinking about this tremendous pressure and this tremendous heat, and it's actually transforming that granite or impacting that granite. It's hard to imagine that when you're looking at that granite in your kitchen.
Well, yeah, it's very hard, but again, your granite is more homogeneous in its makeup than what we see of the geology that we're taking the hydrocarbons out of. That granite is even more refined, more baked than the geologies that we're taking the hydrocarbon out of. And a lot of the granites that we have, or marbles, those usually come from volcanic areas that have had high thermal activity to create those rocks. And so, but there's the porosity of your countertop and the porosity of the geology that we're producing from are very similar. And you go, it's not porous. Well, actually, there's voids in it that would allow the movement of material through it if you have enough pressure.
It's just crazy. So this is these chemical reactions are going on downstairs, so to speak,
That's right.
and by using the refined process and watching the water and watching what's happening on this end, we get an indicator of which direction things are going.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And there's the water is very important. There's other multiple indicators that we look at as the wells are being and it's a term called flowed back. So you push all the water, you flow water one way, and then we're wanting to flow the water and bring it back out. And load recovery is a very important concept. We want, if we put 100 of X in the hole, in a perfect world, we'd want to get 100 of X back out. That rarely happens in the manner that we see, but the higher the closest percentage of getting that water back out, it means that we haven't made the lake hold water again, right? We haven't gotten the clays in that area to hold water and shut off the pathways to the wellbore.
So this dynamic equilibrium, we're taking the static environment, we're injecting this explosion, fracking it, and then we need to get it back into this this tension that allows the hydrocarbon to migrate to the place we want, instead of clays and fines and these other items that you talk about.
Right. We need some disruption. If we don't maintain some level of ability for the hydrocarbon to be mobile, we have to keep the water mobile. We have to keep the hydrocarbon mobile. And so total fluid return is a real big deal. And this is stuff we're continuing to learn as we speak, because if it stays, if it stays, it kills your pay. If it flows, it brings home the bacon, man. It's going to make you more money. And so those are characteristics that we have to be aware of. And the preservation that we're looking for, it really is, as we continue to learn, gives us the greatest amount of return on that resource. And you can't measure it in 3-month periods or 6-month periods. You have to measure that impact over a long period of time, because it's going to fool you. If you're doing it in a 3 and 6 month window, well, these wells last a lot longer than that. And there's a place where that disruption creates a major drop off in your hydrocarbon, and it may take a lot longer than what you would think, but there's indicators that that's going to happen that we monitor after we do the completion. That's another important. We don't just frack it and forget it. 99% of the companies that are out there, from pressure pumping companies and people selling commodity solutions, they frack it and forget it. It's like the old guy, remember, set it and forget it. The guy that had the Ronco.
Yeah.
In the day, really dating ourselves right now, Steve. But we want to frack it and monitor it. And so we do post completion analytics for up to a year on every well that we work on.
And so these analytics that you're getting, you're comparing to the past, the other data, the other sampling of data you have, and you're recognizing patterns, powerful patterns immediately.
That's right. And the cool thing is, some of our clients are giving us some historical data that they've been collecting over time, and we're able to go and do analytics on that and see what level of disruption that their wells have been under, and give them a more predictive, a higher learning to what we're seeing.
So can you share an example where identifying one of these disruption mechanisms early led to measurable improvement?
Well, we've got several studies. One is a 6-year study, and the other one is going on 37 months. And those studies are multi-well studies. And the big aha is from those is total produced fluid, both water, oil, and also you have to measure the gas because the gas has value. So you're looking at water and barrel of oil equivalent. And those ratios, when we preserve the geology, it is it's millions of dollars a well. In the one that's a little over 6 years, it's averaged out over 6 years, a little over $1 million per well per year more, or a total of 6 million over 6 years. The wells that are going into their 39th month right now, those are in one series of Wolfcamp A's are about $5.5 to $6 million per well increase over 3 years, and the Sprayberry wells that we have in the package are producing right at 5, and so it's those are the big impacts. But if you looked at only a 6-month window, you would have thought that our process versus what the industry is traditionally doing, you wouldn't have seen any difference. So time matters.
Significantly. So the you said the 5 million, was that over the what time span? That last number you gave me, the 5 million?
Yeah, that one's over 39 months.
Okay.
And so it's a massive impact.
Yeah.
And I need to clarify for you, Steve, that was also taking into the fact that these wells were producing hundreds of thousands of barrels of more water than what the industry, which means that they fracked that well, and part of it, they disposed their water. They left it in the rock, in the geology. Our process brings it back out, and there's a cost to that. And in the numbers I just shared with you, that is utilizing that those specific operators' cost of disposal of that water. So that's a net increase of income, and that's based at $60 oil.
So yeah, significant. What specific factors or adjustments in your process contributed most to achieving those multi-million-dollar improvements per well?
You can't say there's one. It's all of them. You have to understand all of those mechanisms of failure. And Steve, when we look at the geology, there's 3 primary components that all oil and gas geology has, and it's quartz, clay, and carbonates. And we're measuring all of these 5 different impacts on that. And if you take 3 to the 5th power, there's 243 different measurements. We talked about this last week a little bit, but the math behind that we're doing to understand, it is an algorithm and a formula that works because we have the understanding of those ratios versus those mechanisms of failure. And it's all of the above.
And that's the refined process.
That's the refined Pathfinder process. And in that process, the chemistries that we apply are a result of the process. It's the result of measuring these 243 different mechanisms that gives us the solution, a balanced solution of what that frac fluid needs to look like to give us the best preservation of the geology and create that dynamic equilibrium where we stabilize and we keep the pathways open for the production to come into the wellbore. That's the key thing.
So this process that you're determining like the optimal chemical balance for each specific well, that's that evolves over that 12-month period after we.
Well, we don't. Once you've applied it, you can't go back and redo it. That's part of the challenge. So we're not adding any additional chemistries once the well's been completed. As a matter of fact, our whole goal is to eliminate the need of treatments for the well that are treating the symptoms of failure. And the symptoms of failure are corrosion, are scale, are emulsions. And an emulsion, again, is a oil water mix. And to sell oil, you have to break that emulsion. You have to get the water out of it so it meets a quality spec that the refiners require to pay for that hydrocarbon. And so those three separate cost drivers are things that usually are treated by production chemical companies, and they're an encumbrance on the well. It's like me and you having to take, if you have to take a statin for lipids because you didn't eat well or there's something going wrong with your body, you got to treat it after the fact. The best prevention, right, is to do something before it becomes a problem. Well, that's our whole why we do what we do. You can't fix it. You can go back and heal it to some degree, and we're working on that'll be another subject on our future. We're now really understanding the ability to go back and do a prescriptive healing process on older wells to help unlock that trapped oil, and we see that as being another frontier that our process will help us go through and unlock.
That's pretty exciting. But as far as your process to validate that you've effectively birthed a great well, you've been able to do compare and contrast side-by-side studies over a period of time, correct?
Correct. Yeah. One significant study is, and it's out of the Eagle Ford, so it's not a Permian Basin study. It's a little over 6 years. We have a Permian Basin study that is 39 months. And these are multi-wells, and they were intentional. And guess what? We didn't do them. Our customers did them. And the results that we present are their data, or it's public data from the public marketplace. And so in one instance, it's public data. In the other instance, it is company-driven data.
Well, that's exciting. And then the patent. Speak to your patent again on this process. It's another affirmation of the success of this.
I want to be careful with the word success because we're just now learning how to communicate the value. And we'll be successful when we are on the pathway to success when we impact the industry in a large way. Right now, we're impacting the operators we're working with. We're having a great impact on them. But we want to make sure that, this is, number one, it's sustainable, that we continue to learn. But the patent, what has happened is the math and the mechanisms that we discovered have been validated. And they've been validated out of Europe, out of the German patent office, which is the most rigorous in this type of science in the world. And we have something completely unique, bespoke, and there's in patent terms no prior art anywhere in the world, and it's a process patent. So again, we keep talking about the Pathfinder process. The process gives you the ability to understand how to bring geology into dynamic equilibrium. And then you apply the solutions, the prescriptives for that. It's not the other way around. And our industry, and I'm guilty, so I'm part of the industry. We used to lead with the prescription first, but we had no way to measure whether or not it was working. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've lost Steve. He's frozen, or he's confused, or he's um, frozen. So, Steve, are you back yet? We'll give him we got you back, Steve.
Sorry.
You're good. You're traveling.
Show business. I apologize. Well, this is exciting, man. It's what I'm curious about while we were waiting there. What I was thinking about is several folks that you've talked to recently, or teams that you've talked to recently that are coming on board. What was the one thing that that's impressed you of their view on this process? There's a theme probably that they've an insight or a reaction that they've given you that was unique. I'm curious what that is.
It makes sense. It makes sense. There's nothing that, the process makes sense, and the results, what you see from the process, it makes sense. And the fact that you have the ability to measure the impact post completion in more ways than just what the production numbers are is and understanding the why. So it makes sense. I think that's.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it does make sense. As a business process there, you brought into a place that was typically just guessed and with a significant amount of bias from previous experiences. And now you're introducing a business process that can be validated by data and analytics.
Absolutely.
I love it. So another great episode, Lloyd. You're getting it's as thick as I am, and as little as I understand about, I'm learning more and more about it. I think about it often, and so I imagine the folks that are listening get a lot of value as well. What's someone wants to contact you? They want to talk about this, see what it looks like in their situation.
You bet. Lloyd.Brown at refinecompletions.com or at refinecloydb on your different platforms, and our website, refinecompletions.com.
All right.
All the above.
Well, another great episode of Why Wells Fail. We'll see you again next week, same time, with our favorite man, Lloyd Brown, leading a revolution in well completion and dynamic equilibrium.
That's right.
And that's a wrap.